Hey guys, welcome to Faz Radio. Let's get started. We'll do a quick sound check here, Titan. Say something.
Yep, I'm on it. I've got it playing.
All right. So you check out the YouTube, and then I'll start things going. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Echoes of Empire team, dev team, for coming to talk to us for a short period of time. Very much appreciate them being on the show, and I'm glad that we're going to have a special chat today with them. This is kind of going to be a bit different than a typical AMA. These are some prepared questions I have, and I'm just wanting this to be more of a relaxed fireside chat kind of thing. I personally like to hear about the team, how they got into blockchain gaming, who they are, why they are, and then of course the various bits about the game. Doesn't mean we won't be watching the YouTube chat, however. Just wanted to give you an idea of how this is going to work. Anyway, for the EO team, I just want to introduce Faz Radio and Crypto Faz Academy. Crypto Faz Academy, we're a crypto education Discord. We're not extremely formal or anything like that. We're just a group of people that are kind of teaching each other how crypto works. And Faz Radio is kind of our commentary podcast that two older guys like to talk about what we learn about crypto, what we find out about crypto. So it's a little bit more personal. We're not really a newscaster or newscast or anything, but we like to find out some information. Anyway, welcome guys. Would you guys like to start things off? Maybe give us an idea of who you are in the company and that develops EoE and what you're about?
Sure, yeah, I can go first. I am HF Shadow in the Echoes Discord, or I just go by Matt in the company. I'm the general manager of Ion Games, so I oversee all of the product development for Echoes of Empire.
That develops EoE.
Mike,
well, I'll go next, if that's all right. I'm Mike Donatelli. I'm the COO at Hit Factor. Hit Factor works with Ion in bringing Echoes of Empire to platform, to Gala. We help Matt and his team out with a lot of the central services that you find in making video games. You know, when you have a team of people that are real passionate about making something, they don't necessarily have like a fully spec'd out customer service team or quality assurance or anything like that. We provide a lot of that for Echoes.
Great. Yeah, this is a game that I'm really interested in myself. But before I start getting into questions, you guys weren't originally a blockchain gaming company, correct? Or companies.
Okay. Well, Hit Factor was looking to get into the space because there's a lot of very cool things that happen there. Well, I'll take a couple steps back if you don't mind, and I'll talk about how I got into it. How I got into the space. So the last company I was working at was a game that people may have heard called Old School RuneScape. And I was the product director on that game. And I was over there in Europe. And that team was very, very, very hyper-focused on community input and feedback. They actually have an entire voting system on how players, the content that comes into the game, right? So you pay a subscription and you interact with the game, you get to vote. And that was the first time I had ever seen anything like that. And I made MMOs for 20 years. So I really kind of got used to it and I liked the idea of it. So then Hit Factor was looking for someone to come in the COO role. They had a number of different studios with a number of different games they were interested in getting to market. And I joined them to help them do that, but I was really interested because I like the idea of players getting to direct where the game goes. And what I'm seeing, you see it now in the space with DAOs and you know the people participating in it much deeper than just, you know, picking a box off a shelf in a in a brick and mortar store and plug it into their Xbox, right? There's just a lot more interactivity, plus the ownership aspect of it, where players you really get to, like when we started with our first Galaverse, I remember talking to the guys at Miranda's and talking to them about, hey man, you have cool stuff and we have cool stuff. We should put cool stuff in each other's game. And instead of it instantly turning into a conversation, well, we wouldn't see any revenue and all this stuff that you might see in a traditional game space, it went instantly into, that's a super cool idea. We should totally do that. And that's not, you don't get that in traditional games. It's just not a thing. Anyway, that's how I got into the space.
That's kind of interesting. I want to jump on one of those things. So are you suggesting that players of Echoes of Empire might have some influence on the direction of the game?
Matt?
Yeah, that is actually something that we're, very keenly interested in as, being a part of this broader space. As Mike was kind of mentioning, there are a lot of great examples of cases in which these games are able to kind of empower players to kind of bring the game world forward and continue to push on that. And, I think that is something that we aspire to be able to do at some point. We don't have any plans for that in the immediate term. First we just got to get this game out the door. But
yeah, I messed that up. Yes, we should not. It's not going to be a launch thing.
Certainly down the line, it's something that we, have in the back of our minds that we are thinking about, because it is kind of in the greater philosophy of decentralization, of blockchain technology, to kind of, empower the network, right? That's kind of the point. So
you guys actually, if I'm not mistaken, since you're going to be partnered with Gala Games, is there going to be a Gala? Are there going to be Gala Game nodes for Echoes of Empires?
I can't get into too much detail on that, but I can say we're very interested in the idea.
Well, those nodes definitely give an ability for users to vote, because there's a voting mechanism already implemented on the nodes that is used for the Gala founders node ecosystem, and probably for the Townstar nodes as well, I bet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have a very good relationship with Gala. We're in constant communication with them about all the stuff that they're doing elsewhere in their kind of portfolio of games, and Nodes is definitely something that we've been discussing. So I'll leave it there.
Great. And I don't want to ignore Titan here. Would you have any questions from stuff you've heard so far, Mr. Titan?
Oh, absolutely. I was just going to type in there. Talking about that Gala Games partnership, I was just kind of curious. We've heard from some of the others on why Gala Games, why partner with Gala Games for this. What is your take on what Gala brings to the Web3 gaming side that maybe some others don't for you?
Well, yeah, I can talk. Well,
go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Mike?
All right. So, again, I started at Hit Factor, I think it was a year anniversary about 2 weeks ago. And when I had come on board, Gala was just sitting down. I think they had signed the game, and they'd done a brief announcement on Discord. I go back and look at that. The art style's way different. There's a lot of differences there. But when I came in, I was just getting into the space, and I was looking around. And what you see, at least what I've noticed, and we deal with a lot of different platforms, but with Gala, what I like about Gala is they kind of took the bull by the horns like early, right? When other platforms were kind of like, oh, we don't know about this, and what happens with the SEC, and we need to get our legal teams wrangling this stuff. Gala's like, first market, first mover, right? That first mover advantage where they're like, we're signing games, we're getting things moving, right? And some of the games, even ours, was kind of in its infancy. There was an idea about what the game was going to be, and it had some work done to it, but we weren't really far along or anything like that. But they went out there and they found games that they thought would be impactful in the space, because the reality is, in my opinion, whoever has the most content on their platform wins. That's just the way this is going to work. So I think they're exciting. I think they do a lot of things, and they're fast movers.
So is Gala Games here to kind of bootstrap you guys in blockchain? Are they providing some elements that can speed you guys up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they provide a ton of support on, like Mike was saying, they really do grab the bull by the horns and move quickly. And in some cases, they're dragging us along with them to make sure we're moving quickly
Move
too.
fast and break things.
Exactly.
All right.
That's awesome.
they're
to
more-
hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Mr. Titan.
Oh no, I was. What catches our attention is we hear kind of the same message coming along. It's the passion that they have, and they had mentioned before in some conversations that you're equally as passionate. What is it that you bring to the table with that passion that's going to make Echoes of Empire a huge hit on the platform?
Let me. Let me start, Matt, if I may.
Of course.
I think it's like some things that I feel, we might not get to beat the drum on real hard, but I do like talking about it, is the idea that when I came in, the game that I saw, it was cool. It was a decent idea. It had a very good concept. There was some story behind it, but it was in its infancy, right? And when you go back and you look at those old screenshots and you look at the little snips that we were putting out and all these things, and it was kind of samey, right? It has this kind of samey sci-fi vibe. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. And then the more support we got from Gala, the more we were able to kind of flesh that out and take it in a new and interesting direction. And then we evolved it, right? We did our first pre-sale, which with a ton of support from Gala, obviously, and obviously the community as well. And that allowed us to even go deeper, right? Because we were looking at this going, wow, there's so much interest in this. We really need to make it the best, better than we even thought we could. So we went out and we started bringing in, we have now multiple, I don't want to go into the gory details, but we got multiple people working on the economic side to it in way more depth than we were originally talking about, which that's going to make this game super strong in the space. Because again, a lot of the people we talk to, they're not putting the time and effort into it, and they need to, right? You have to have an economy team. If you do not have an economy team on your game, on your platform, pushing super hard to make sure that this thing is sustainable years and years and years down the line, you're not going to be successful. So I'd call that out as like a primary thing. Something that we have heavily invested in since doing our first pre-sale. And we've staffed the team up crazy. Matt, you could talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, even since I've joined back in February, I think we've scaled the team like roughly another 60% in size. So, we feel a lot of the passion from the community. We feel how much they've supported us in like the Celestial Claim pre-sales, how active they are in our community. And that just, continues to light a fire for us to be, the passionate folks that we are. First and foremost, we're game developers. We all come from a background of working on many, many games. And, we want to bring that to this space. We want to bring something new and novel with the aspect of building fun games. So I think that that's probably where Gala and us are able to kind of meet each other in the middle, is like, because we're also so passionate about developing really good games and like developing a really good experience, we're also doing a lot of our own research and talking with Gala about things that we're finding. So it's very collaborative, the way that we are able to kind of continue to mold that relationship with Gala.
Great. That's a great introduction. So I was hoping to start getting into some questions. The first thing I wanted to mention before I did that was I was talking with Matt a little bit before the show started about this game type, this being a 4X strategy game. I tend to be, I'm older than most blockchain gamers, I think, and I'm not always up for the immediate action games, and I really like the strategy aspect where I'll be able to play it for a little while one day, let it run, come back the next day, let it run. I'm kind of jumping in and out of this immersive world that's there. And I do want to put a shout out for all this lore you guys have been putting out. I really like seeing all this lore stuff. It gives somebody some purchase into this world. You want to know more about how the world works. Why are you just moving these ships around? I assume that there's probably going to be more to do with the lore coming soon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, funny story is that we just brought in another narrative designer to help us kind of continue to flesh out our lore and our world building. So it's been a really exciting time to kind of have, again, more fresh faces coming in to kind of help us build out this game. Yeah, Mike, do you have something to say?
Well, I was just going to say, there's plenty. We've had narrative folks churning away on this stuff because you have to, right? In this space, in the 4X Grand Strategy, you're exploring a universe, right? You're exploring planets. You're exploring, you're interacting with NPCs. You're doing all these things. And to do that, you need a lot of backstory. And because I just landed and I have my computer open, I happen to be looking at a lot of the narrative overview, human backstory, the empire, the Closter Church, which is it's the religious arm of this the imperial faction, the death of Frederick the Wise, the Volkshear, first Gabriella, first and Isabella. Like there's so much, and I don't even know. Here you go. Here's a snippet for you in case anybody's interested. I think I may have shared this before, but the new imperial calendar begins with the arrival of Emperor Albrun, and his retinue on the imperial homeworld. Dates prior to this are referred to the old Imperium calendar by Vetus Imperium. Like, there's a load of this stuff. I just don't even know, Matt, how you guys want to release this, because this stuff doesn't need to wait around. This is the basic for game. This is the basis of all the game. These are the foundational documents that game designers will use when they're writing quests, when they're naming planets, when they're writing descriptions. So this is all, but it should be shareable. I just don't know how you guys want to tackle it.
If I could make a plug here, I've funded some other games or helped fund some other games. One of them being Star Citizen, and one of the neat things about Star Citizen, well, probably not so neat that it's taken forever to get done, but one of the neat parts about it is they paid a lot of attention to their lore, and they actually had a YouTube series for a couple of years at least, where they went into the various parts of their lore, and that gives basically they gave themselves a vehicle to do a rich backstory and help people explore this backstory. And I've seen you guys do it with your Medium articles and stuff like that. I'd totally be up for seeing, hearing you guys talk about lore in on YouTube or in future Medium articles.
Yeah. I mean, to Mike's point, I think we've got a lot of foundational materials there, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't go and do some of that. Just we'll work with artists.
A lot of opportunities
there on that front.
For cross merchanting opportunities and stuff like that.
Well, I guarantee you we're going to launch. Oh man, I was going to say we're going to launch before Star Citizen, but yeah, we're definitely not going to take that kind of time.
All right. Would you? So I did give you guys a list before we started. I was curious if there's any of those angles that you might might have more information on. I'm personally interested in some game design and dev challenges you have, but I hear something about a ship sale coming up.
Oh boy.
I didn't.
Can we talk about it? I don't know. Should we?
I don't know, man. It's your game.
Well, we are doing a ship sale. We're very excited to be doing a ship sale. So Mike and I actually did an AMA. What was that? A few weeks ago now, where we kind of talked about our capital ship design, and we're actually going to be ramping up, preparing to do our NFT flagships sale. We're looking to lock in a date, so it's not quite solidified yet. So as soon as I've got a little bit more information there, I'm planning to share it. But suffice to say, it's going to be within the next couple months, at most within the next couple of months. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be working a lot with Artemis on kind of building out our community plan so that we are getting a lot of communication on our ships, like what the design's going to look like, how it's going to work, when the sale is going to happen, the way that the pricing and inventory is going to work, all of those aspects, and the utility, of course, of the ships themselves. So be on the lookout in the Discord. It's going to be something that you're definitely going to want to follow along with us on as we're kind of seeding more information into the community. But it's going to be really exciting. I wish I could tell you guys a little bit more. I wish I could, but we're just not quite there yet.
Well, how about
but
this?
Definitely pay a lot of close attention over the next couple of months.
Would you be able to tell us about some of the dev challenges that's preventing you from telling us about this stuff? Because obviously you've got some balance, and I did warn you. I know there's some balance and there issues and that you always have to keep track of, and there's certain decisions you have to make, like how powerful do we want to make these ships and so on. What kind of things are holding you back?
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
Let me take. I'll go back a little further, and you can dive into the specifics around the ships because there is depth to talk about there. But for us, right, when we started working with Gala, and I think I've told the story before, and I'll keep it super high level because I know probably we need the time. We got a lot of things to talk about, but the reality is, Gala, we Hit Factor, Ion got together with Gala. We were like, we're going to make this 4X grand strategy. Then Gala came back to the table and said, you know what? We want it to be deeper. We want you guys to add depth, right? And they were very much strongly incentivizing us to do so. Then we did our first pre-sale, and then we had to take a step back and go, man, this is awesome. The game we were making was going to be great, but how do we plus it, right? How do we take movement and make it more interesting, right? To let you truly explore space, right? And then that introduced Fog of War and AOI around ships, and then an entire new set of stats across all the different ships to be able to uncover space around the ship itself while it moves, because before you could only move from point A to point B. So we added freeform movement. So all of these things add complexity to everything, right? And it's not just make it work. Like, it's not like just make AOI work. It's literally having to get new engineers and additional set of designers and start planning from scratch and then start implementing it.
Yeah.
But I am telling you, it makes the game so much better.
Yeah,
by an order of magnitude better.
I come from the dev side, and I know that whenever you introduce additional elements into a game, or just whenever you get a bunch of elements in there and then start introducing them later, you have all these permutations that you got to figure out. Like, wow, I just put this new fighter in the game, and it's totally wasting everything else in the game. Or hey, this mechanic is working pretty well, but boy, people can really take advantage of this here. We're missing something. And I think what people don't realize when they're waiting for a game is, if you put out the game and those things are missing, the game is going to flop, and people are going to be like, "This is crap." Why didn't they figure this out? And that's what you guys are doing, right? I mean, you guys are figuring out balance and stuff.
And you're 100% right, but I think it's even more than that because of the space, because there's so much riding on that, right? Yeah, you could put out. I mean, I can go all the way back to Dark Age of Camelot, right? We put out weapons that you could salvage for this really rare crafting material, and it would drop. Somebody figured out that there was a monster that had one number tweaked the wrong way, and it could have literally destroyed the economy if a lot of people had done it, but we caught it earlier enough. You can't have that. That can't happen in this space. You have to double, triple, quadruple check. With all these
NFTs flying around, people have all sorts of reasons for having them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So to that end, are there any specific mechanics that you might be able to talk about that you might be more further along, like perhaps the mining mechanic? I thought I heard a past show you guys talking about the mining mechanic.
Well, I could talk maybe a little bit more about maybe the discovery mechanic, because that's one area that I think is very heavily implicated by what Mike was talking about with Fog of War. I think one of the biggest challenges we face is often kind of what Mike is describing, which is we often refer to as like design debt or tech debt, where by making some change that pluses and improves the game, we then have to go back and make a bunch of changes elsewhere. So not only was Fog of War and the introduction of being able to freely move around the map also impacting our fleet's design and the way that fleets move around the world, but it also affected our discovery design, right? Previously, you only had to send probes to points of interest, and that was basically the only discovery functionality that there was. But now there's this whole big world map of blank squares that you can't see into typically without having a fleet in that location. So we had to go back and redesign the way that our probe system works and figure out, okay, now there should probably be different kinds of probes. Probes should have different types of functionality. Maybe there are probes that are used specifically for POIs. Maybe there are probes that uncover defenses on POIs, and now there also have to be probes for just empty map squares, right? We have to create and design a new type of probe simply because of the introduction of this Fog of War. And then we have to think about all the parameters that are going to make that fun and engaging for players, and create opportunities for players to play with each other or against each other as well, right?
Yeah. So I saw that you guys are coming up with a number of assets around this discovery thing, and you have a whole discovery, that discovery mechanic allows you to click on things and spend some resources to go figure out what that is. How many kinds of assets are you thinking of? I mean, are there? It's not just stars and planets, right? Are there going to be other things that are exciting, places of interest, or places that perhaps might move along a story narrative?
Yeah, actually, there's. We were just going over our points of interest table, and the number is already quite high. I think we've got something like close to 200 variations of objects. So that's stars, planets, giant planets, dwarf planets. We have like flotillas, different religious structures. We have different spaceports and vendor services. We have like depleted stellar remnants, depleted remnants. The list goes on. There are a lot of varieties, and those are just actually the static objects. Those are the objects that are essentially on the map all the time. We also want to build a system that creates dynamic content in the world too. We want world bosses to spawn in areas on some sort of given timer or specific schedule. We want new landmarks to appear that create new quest lines on some sort of cadence. We want to be able to do events that kind of happen for the broader community, and that we're able to kind of spawn new content into the map for those types of events. So yeah, the map diversity is definitely a huge one for us. We want the universe to feel vast. We want it to feel vast and enjoyable to go and explore. And the only way for us to do that is really create a lot of this, create a lot of these types of content, both static content and dynamic content, and the types of content that players will create by engaging with each other as well.
So the Titan here, so the diverse number, I mean, you could come up with a limitless amount of NFTs and how they inject fun into the gameplay. Besides your ships or the planets, what are some of the interesting aspects of NFTs maybe that we haven't seen before? Will there be NFTs, for example, that will provide buffs? Is there special battle cards that could put a buff onto a ship? Is that part of the plan to roll out with the original game?
Yeah, so I think the way that we're thinking about our NFT plan currently is in kind of an asset tier class. So if you think of Celestial Claims as kind of the top asset class, and then flagships as the asset class below that, we would have essentially one more category below ships, which are going to be the NFT heroes. The name for that is our paragons. And those are basically like the characters that you can equip to each of your fleets who provide some of those things that you're talking about, buffs, bonuses, particular perks, skills that can be used in conjunction with a particular fleet. And just like our flagship design and capital ship design, paragons will also have faction relationship as well, right? So you may want to pair garrison paragons with garrison flagships because you might get particular bonuses or perks via that match, right? Or the arbiters are a faction that are all about commerce and trade, right? They're the faction that is always working with everyone else because they don't have enough of what they need on their own, right? So some of their bonuses and perks might be based around that. It might be better for an arbiter paragon to be paired with a garrison flagship or a royal flagship because that's kind of the conceit of their faction, right? So yeah, those are kind of the primary 3 NFT classes we're looking at right now. The 4th one is going to be for guilds. So guild charters will likely be an NFT asset as well.
That's an interesting angle, the guild charter. Can you play, do you need to have a guild or do you need to join a guild? I mean, if I don't join a guild, am I just going to get my butt kicked by everybody else in the game because the guilds are just ruling the roost?
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of this game, one of our core design pillars is that this is a social experience. So while you can absolutely go and play the game by yourself, you absolutely can do that. You're going to have a much better time if you join a guild and team up with a bigger alliance, because that's kind of the way that the game is designed. That's the way that our designers think about every system, is how are these systems interacting in a way that creates these sort of social experiences within the game. And we want those social experiences to be across all the types of players, right? There are players like you're describing who are more like single player players, lone wolf types. Like, we still want that to be part of the broader social experience of the game. Just like Celestial Claim owners are like a particular type of user who we also want to interact with earners, or who we also want to interact with free-to-play players. We always want there to be this sort of harmonious relationship between all of the different types of users.
Can you tell us a little bit more about those Celestial Claims? I'd be interested in knowing what's the purpose of having a Celestial Claim NFT, because those things are the first things that were sold. And for fair disclosure, I have some as well. There are people that can. I know that there's people that can discover these claims, but I mean, I'm assuming if you don't have an NFT that you could perhaps get your star or your planet taken away from you, but maybe that's not the case with an NFT?
Yeah, so actually there are basically only 2 types of interactions for NFTs, right? There's the owner experience, which is for folks such as yourself who've kind of purchased an NFT Celestial Claim, which you would then go and attach to a Celestial object. And then there are Celestial Object patrons. Those are players who are looking to go to a Celestial Object to mine for resources, use vendor services, or contribute to the defenses of that Celestial Object. So if you're not an NFT owner, you can still engage with any of the Celestial Objects in the universe that are not ownable. There are quite a few Celestial Objects spread out throughout the galaxy that are not ownable objects, and you would just be able to interact with them as if they were any planet. You could just go to them, mine them for some base level of resources, and be on your merry way. But the NFT Celestial Objects are really kind of where the core economic drivers of the game come from, right? There's a lot of onus on these particular NFT owners to grow and progress their Celestial Objects over time, because that progression is what leads to greater resource gathering. It leads to better defensive capabilities. It leads to better vendor services, all of which kind of curtail into dust distribution, right? Which is our ERC20 token. So in order to stay competitive in the amount of dust that you're generating, you need to continue to progress your NFT Celestial Object. And then on the flip side of that, it behooves patrons to want to be a part of that, right? Because on the patron side, if I'm going to, just a low level common celestial object that nobody owns. I'm only going to earn like a base level resource for that. I'm not going to get very much dust distribution for having done that. But if I'm also progressing my fleets, my capital ships, my flagships, and I'm contributing to, a very high tier NFT celestial objects progression, then my dust distribution is going to be much better for having done that, right? So that's kind of the way that we think about the NFT celestial objects in particular.
Well, if I don't have an NFT though, I mean, why would I want to play the game? Is there any way that I can build up in the game to get an NFT rather than buy one?
Yeah, we're always thinking about the path to ownership for players. Mike mentioned his background in, old school RuneScape. I have a large background in free-to-play monetization. I also worked on Valorant for quite some time. And, we want there to be a pathway for players to come into this space and not only learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency, but also kind of realize the benefits of playing in a game like this, right? So that pathway from being a free-to-play player into becoming an earner and then thereafter becoming an owner is super important to us, something that we're thinking about often. So the long and short of that is yes, that would be the desire that someday a player would be able to work their way up to ownership.
And I think, Matt, I think you're selling yourself short here, because technically, right, the reality here is, and again, I'm describing it at a high level. I'm sure when you get down into the weeds, this is going to be, you could go into some more detail. Maybe not right now, but the fact is, free to play players come in and they play in house space, right? Everybody gets a home base, whether you're a free to play player or not. You start at your home base in house space. So the whole idea is that's where all the free to play players, where all players are going to start, and they all pour into the game. So the idea being is, you will hit a progression wall where you need more and more resources, as these games all do, and to make your fleets, to make your ships, to look for new heroes, to do all these things, you'll need more, and you're going to get to a point where it's a diminishing returns if you stay in house space. But house space is great. It's safe. It's PvE. It's introducing everyone to all the components, the 3 different resources, what is it, Matt? 24 different refined resources. Like, you're going to be introduced to all of this mechanics, all the mechanics of this. And then you will be incentivized to go out into the 3 zones and actually start leasing off of players. And then that's when you're going to be told, hey, if you become part of this process, if you have your wallet and have all these things, you can receive this from mining other people's claims. That's how we're going to introduce people to it. Right now, again, I'm oversimplifying this process, but that's the onboarding ramp to get people to earn. And once they start to earn, then we can introduce them to the NFT economy of the game and the tokenomics, and then they can participate. But there is a path for free to play players. Like, to Matt's point, no game we ever touch is going to not have that ramp. We have to do it, right? If you're talking about like buying in and you can't play if you don't buy something to play, that's like V1 garbage. You can't get away with that anymore.
Awesome. So, kind of dovetailing with that same thought going forward, we've been talking about all this lore, the mechanics, the details, so many things to do, right? So, what is it that's driving your decision to, when is it enough to put that game out as a release candidate, or to let people go? No, wait. Now this is really important, because on Gala's platform,
you're hitting their radar there. They're like, oh, they heard the when question.
No.
I'm not asking when. I'm asking the what goes into that decision. We've had some games that have come out, like Spider Tanks had come out, and it was very playable with a lot of really cool things built into it and baked into it. Whereas on the opposite side, Townstar may have been put out just a hair early. So how do you guys, I mean, are you working with Gala, or is it just you guys, you're like, all right, that's it, let's go?
Yeah,
just
I would
so
say
we're on the same page, Gala acts as our publisher. So in this case, with this game, they do act as our publisher. So they're always I think I would be fair to say that they are always keeping the pressure on.
100%. 100%. I will say they're always keeping the pressure on, but they're also a great partner. They definitely let us drive our own roadmap of what we believe is appropriate for, the gates that we set for ourselves. And yeah, I guess to answer your question, I think we're often trying to balance quality versus speed all the time, right? That's kind of the forever question in game development. It's like, okay, well, we could take longer and have it be higher quality, or we could go faster and the quality goes down a little bit, right? And then, of course, the third option being like, let's dogpile more. The more people you dogpile on it, the faster we can go. So I think the thing that we kind of look for is we're always playing this game internally. And there tends to be this moment in game development where you're just starting to see everybody in the playtest just have fun, right? Like everybody just wants to be in the playtest, is having a lot of fun. They're seeing all the pieces come together, and it's honestly a little bit of a feel thing. Like you can kind of set your targets for where you believe we're going to be and at what time we're going to get there. But really it comes down to we're making games, right? We're making games. We're making an experience that's designed and intended for people to have fun. And what's the best way to figure out if you're ready to go is when you're seeing that people are having fun, right?
What kind of
That's
I'm
awesome
sorry.
to hear. No, I was going to say that's really awesome to hear, because I think one of my favorite statements was made just a few minutes ago, when you were talking about what is good or good enough, and nowadays, really, people look at it and good enough isn't anymore. You need to exceed that good enough part, and finding when people are having fun is a tremendously good way to look at that. And I think that the people on this platform will be an excellent judge of that when they see it.
Well, I think people have gotten burned and used to the Google method of deploying things. Remember when Gmail came out, it was in beta for like 7 years. And whenever anything new comes out, it seems that it's always in beta for a while, or they're just getting something out the door. And, it's worth mentioning, it's important to get it right before it goes out. But to that end, how do you see your deployment schedule? I mean, I'm sure that you're going to upgrade the game as it goes along. How do you see doing that kind of thing? Or is that too technical for this conversation?
Not at all. Not at all. I think live operations is definitely that's kind of what we refer to it internally, is live operations. Live operations is a big area of interest for us because, again, I come from a mobile games market where live operations drives those games for many years, right? And we've said many times, and we will continue to say that we intend to support Echoes for years to come. But it's interesting, live ops is, because this part of the industry is so new, live ops in this part of the industry is also very new. So we haven't really determined, what the right timing and cadence is of new releases and new content, because, we want to keep the players engaged, we want to keep the players involved, and I'm sure we will dial it in over time. So I guess I don't have a very technical answer, but it's an area that we're very focused on, and I'm sure that we'll work with the community to kind of determine what that right speed is of balance.
Well, I've mentioned this before. I feel that in the blockchain gaming area, that people don't exactly understand how things are put out, and sometimes they tend to react a bit negatively to inevitable steps. We've got to upgrade the game, or we've got to rebalance the game, or we have a new ship coming out, and there's going to be a test period to make sure that we have it dialed in right. Because once you are live, you're going to keep improving the game, I'm assuming. Now, my expectation is that the game's going to be around forever. Because remember, those nodes, those can run the games in perpetuity. That's if you decide to use them.
We're interested. We're interested. We'll see.
There's even opportunities there for other people to develop for you. You know, the kinds of games I really like to see, and this because I was a hacker when I was younger, is I like to see games that are modifiable. It's like, you know, all you need to do is just go and edit this INI file, and then you could turn on these various things. You know, I'm sure you remember playing Doom back in the day, or Quake, where you just where you put up your own server. I'm sure it's probably way premature to talk about stuff like that, but I see ways for the community to actually be able to get involved in these games when they're deployed out onto the node system.
Like, I think that, and again, I think we've touched upon it a couple times, but I think it's fair to say when we did I want to call it a full-blown pivot, but when we start move away from like the static movement and the no fog of war and the limited exploration, when we started to embrace those as like pillars of the game and say we want to make these good. I think we got to a good spot. Like, I think Matt and his team have gotten to a point where it's like, this is what this is, and we can now finish it. And this is what this is. So I think there's feature creep, right? There's creep where, again, you mentioned the game, I didn't, but there's that other game, that Star Citizen game, where you could make it better, quote unquote, forever. Like,
well,
you never have to launch a game.
Star Citizen's a perfect example of they started out small, they got a lot of money, and then they expanded it big time because they got the money, and now they're for every dollar that comes in, they're like, yeah, we'll add a ship for that. Yeah, well, you got to balance all these ships against the other ones. We'll add that feature, sure.
But again, I think, and I don't want to talk for you, Matt, but I think that the team is solidified. I mean, we are adding additional help to it, but I think the team's solid. I think they know where they want to go now with the direction. And yeah, I think now is the time where we talk about, because we did talk about in the past, like, we want to do raids, right? And we want certain NFTs that exist to spawn these portals, these black hole portals that send you to a place and you fight bosses. We talked about that. It's something we absolutely want to do. Would we wait until that's finished to get people playing the game? Absolutely not. Like, we are now in the position to say, okay, that is a post-live feature, because that's what Live Ops is all about, right?
Wow,
this isn't a box product.
A black hole could send you to somebody else's node server. That'd be cool. You're on server 2, and then you can get to server 5 that way. That'd be crazy.
That's a great idea.
Matt, make it happen, bud.
I appreciate the free advice.
As long as I get credit.
So one of the things that we hear frequently, and we spend endless hours talking about on CFA with people, is the difference in blockchain gaming versus traditional gaming. So everybody always asking when, but there's unique things that have to be done and implemented before you can make a change on the blockchain side to make things work. Could you maybe share with the people listening what that hurdle is and what some of those struggles that you have are, so that maybe they understand why it takes so long sometimes?
Well, I'll say one thing, Matt, you can take over because you could run with it. For Echoes, aging NFTs. That was a core mechanic to what we wanted to do with the game. And Gala they've been cranking on that for a while, and they now, I don't even know how many engineers they got working on it, but they're moving in that direction, and we need that for the game.
So my NFT, my star could burn out after a while? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's why we let Matt go into it. So I knew I was going to F that up.
Aging, just in the sense that...
I'm just expressing the fear that everybody else gets as soon as they hear that.
Yeah, no worries. I hear you. Aging in this context is really about the progression that you're going to invest into your NFT, right? You're gonna spend all this time progressing the level, progressing the tier, building out buildings on it, making sure you have good vaults and mines, all of this stuff, right? And we want that to all be represented on chain, right? And the only way for us to do that is for us to be able to make those updates via this technology that we're working with, that Gala is working on for NFT aging, right?
That's Gary Chain, right?
And there are Gary Chain, exactly. And there are a lot of implications to doing something like that, right? You think about, for example, if we tried to do something like that on Ethereum, the gas fees to make those changes as often as we would need to make them across every NFT in the game is just not reasonable, right? So we have to do this change to Gary Chain in order to reduce the cost, in order for us to be able to then do those updates in a way that makes sense. And then when you, Faz, let's say, God forbid that you decide to stop playing Echoes because you're not having fun anymore, you could then go and sell that NFT exactly as it is, and someone else can see it verifiably on chain with all of the work that you put into it. So the price that you sell it for makes sense, right? So yeah, that's like a really, really major component of like just a technological hurdle that we have to get through in order to kind of make this game function at its core.
That's something I really like about...
Can't believe Faz is going to sell the NFTs.
Well, I didn't say I was going to do it. He said I was going to do it. What I really like about the concept of gaming NFTs in general is when you play a game right now, you have nothing to show for your work. If you play Pac-Man up until level 256 and to where it craps out, if you get to level 255 and you die, that's it. You have nothing to show except for bragging rights. And with something like Mirandus or Echoes of Empire, I see myself building up every day that I'm playing on it. I'm building up. My time isn't wasted, and I'm building up a nice big empire, big mining empire. Hopefully, there's more than just mining, because I think that might get boring after a while. But what I do when I finally do decide to sell, when I'm like 85 years old and I need to hand it down to my grandkids, then I would be able to hand down a vast empire, and then actually it'd be nice if I could pay for my care at that point. But it's nice I would be able to have something to show for all the time that I put into it. That's the best, I think, the killer feature that blockchain gaming brings that standard gaming does not. In standard games, if you get banned, everything you had on the server, it's gone. If you for some reason got banned on a blockchain game, fine, you sell your NFTs. At least you had every bit of progress you made, you get to keep. So I don't see any downside to this whatsoever.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, tying back all the way back to the beginning where you were kind of asking how we got into this, that was a big draw for me coming into this space. This ability to be able to really empower our players with real ownership, right? It's kind of putting the power back to the hands of the players in a way that traditional gaming just hasn't been able to do. And there's something that's really exciting and appealing about that, and that's a big part of the reason why I wanted to be here in this space as well.
All right, so looks like we've been going for about 53 minutes, and I know that you guys have a schedule. I don't want to go too far over, but I did probably want to hit a couple of the questions in chat. Titan, if you've been paying attention, if there's anything in there that we might want to hit, just to make sure that people aren't being ignored here.
No, of course. So I've been paying attention, and one of our CFA members had asked. They've seen a shift in a positive way with the team members, and doesn't remember you, Shadow, but thinks it's a very good thing. What is it that you're adding that's going to make this a much better experience? Because as we mentioned at the beginning, we saw those original screenshots and there wasn't a lot of excitement. And recently this stuff has come out. It's been just crazy. What is it you're doing with your team that has taken you guys over the top like that?
Yeah, I think the big thing is just really focusing on both making a fun game, but also something different, something intriguing. And I think I've been working with the team a lot on pushing our quality bar, right? I just come into every meeting and I'm like, okay, guys, we got to keep pushing on quality. We really want to up our game. we really want to live up to, you know, the passion of our community. They see a lot of promise in us. Like, let's go deliver, right? And I think, man, I really can't wait to show you guys the flagships that are going to be going on sale soon. They look absolutely incredible. The team has been working so hard on getting those ships completed. Even to the dismay of Mike, sometimes I've been pushing back, asking to take a little bit longer on those ships because I really wanted to get that quality there. But man, those ships are going to be the thing that you do everything in the game with. They got to feel amazing. Like I want to be able to. I want players to want to look at them and like enjoy this thing that they own.
Will they be affordable
every time they use it?
The one of the beefs I've seen pop up with Gala Games recently is all the NFTs that are being sold. They're just above the reach of a lot of people. And will you have affordable NFTs?
Absolutely. We do
are.
want these ships to be affordable for players. Not only that, but I can also say that, you know, discounting our inventory for players early on is definitely going to be part of the strategy of the release, right? Like, we want the players who follow along with us all the time, who are always there with us, you know, listening to everything that we do, sitting in all these conversations that Mike and I have. We want them to be able to have access to that discounted inventory. So that's definitely going to be a big part of the sales, is making sure players can actually buy this stuff.
And again, so like you said earlier, Matt, I think it's important to call out the celestial claims. They are the most important part, right? The celestial claims that are owned by players is the engine that makes this whole game go, right? Like and yes, they had a price point that was, you know, competitive, over competitive. I don't know how you say it.
Well, they're like the land, right?
It was land, right? Those claims. I mean, that's it. Those things, and there's a limited amount of it, and that's the engine that makes things go. But players coming in, you know, you're going to be introduced to ships. You're going to be introduced to heroes.
Well, I think a lot of people are seeing these land sales and they're thinking, well, everybody gets land, right? And I think what they don't realize is that 95% of the game is going to be other things. The land is just stuff that wasn't previously available in mainstream games prior to this. And and you're going to be worried about weapons and shields and armor and ships and all this stuff, right?
Oh yeah, there's loads of that. But the flagships and then the paragons, that's the heroes of the game, because you'll be introduced to like ships and heroes, and then there's paragons and flagships, which are the NFT versions. Those have a whole it's a different set of price points, because the expectation is that all the players are going to be able to have access to that, right? All those players are going to need them, right? Regardless of, you don't necessarily need land to play the game. You will probably need a guild if you don't, but to be part of a guild, but you don't need land to play. But you will need ships, and this is something you're going to be introduced to, and then they'll have a price point, all kinds of different price points per rarity level, to get people in and understanding and being able to, I guess you'd say, earn up.
Yep, that's exactly how we're thinking about it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that so Faz Radio has recently started a Faz Radio game night channel where we've been playing some various games, and I certainly hope to be adding this one to our game night channel. Is it? I know that there's no real good way to ask this question, so I'm going to try not to ask it wrong. But am I going to be able to show this on my channel this year?
There will be a playable experience this year. And lucky for you, Faz, you are a landowner, so you're definitely going to be a part of that playable experience, 100%.
So will I be, well, actually, is this playable experience a private one? Will I be able to show people, on this channel?
We are planning for a limited alpha, but we are comfortable with folks showing that limited alpha to others, so you'd be welcome to share that with your game night folks.
Great.
And then I'll throw in the caveat, as we like to do in the traditional game side of things, where this is not final. this is going to be a build to allow players like yourself and people who've been following along and people who engage with us in the NFT space to start their experience, to start earning, to start understanding, right? But there's going to be a lot of features, to your point earlier, that are still going to be in test. They're going to still, you know what I mean? So it is not going to be a complete experience, I guess you'd say.
Be sure to label the crap out of the application, because people aren't going to, a lot of people aren't going to catch these shows. They're not going to see Twitter. They're going to play the game for the first time. They're going to be like, what the fuck? Why can't I earn anything? And it's like, no, dude, this is still playable alpha. Things might go wrong. It's, we're still testing it. Give us your feedback.
Totally. And I mean, that's a big part of the reason why we do a limited alpha, right? Because we can do it with folks who we know have been, longtime supporters of us, early supporters of us, who are very likely following along, as many of those folks do in our Discord. And we want to have a dialogue with those folks as well. So, doing a limited alpha with them, they can ask us questions in our Discord. We want it to be as collaborative with those folks as we can.
Very cool. What really refreshes me is you guys seem to really be focused on the gaming aspect versus the earnings and the ROI and all the stuff that Web3 keeps promising, but we haven't figured out yet. And I really hope that the focus remains on the gameplay, and I don't want this to turn into something where it's a terrible experience and takes a focus away from the level of detail that you guys are talking about putting into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say it 1,000 times over. We're game developers first. We love making games. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. And that's why we love engaging with our community in this way. This is actually something that's really new for us. This isn't something that we used to be able to do in traditional gaming. We didn't used to be this involved with a player community this early in development. So, it's just as exciting for us. And we're excited to go and continue to make a great game.
Great. All right. Well, I think we're over time, so I wanted to let you guys get back to working on your game. I very much appreciate you stopping by and talking with us. Hopefully, you'll want to do more of the same in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. Yeah,
this was a great informative conversation, and I don't know, it just feels different than an AMA, because an AMAs just seem just one right after another, and then people are just asking the same questions anymore, and they're trying to figure out ways to get their ROI in there, because that's being asked, or that wants to be asked.
Look, man, the fact is, and again, I'll leave you with that. The fact is that you make a good game and people will come, right? So again, to the folks, we're making games. Like, that's what Hit Factor does. It's what Ion's doing. We make video games first. And if we make it good, that's where the people will show up, and that's when everybody gets to earn after that, right? It's not the other way around, because you've seen how that ends, and it doesn't end pretty.
And that's not not even code speak. They're not saying that just to say the right thing. They're saying that because if you think that you're going to earn on anything, if you happen to be somebody that's interested in ROI, it has to be a good game. So they can only be concentrating on making sure that the game is done well and balanced and so on. And what you do with it, I mean, you could. There were laws in the past in New York City saying that you could not bet or gamble on pinball games. And so as a result, pinball games weren't allowed in a lot of places. And to this day, now they kind of dialed it back, but if you look on pinball games, you'll see a sticker saying you're not allowed to gamble on them. And everybody wants to speculate on everything. And that's what a lot of these ROI people are with these games. If it's a good game, I'm sure you'll do well.
Amen.
All right, anything else, Titan, before I shut things down?
No, sir. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I learned a ton. I thought this was fantastic, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again.
Me too.
Yeah, it was great talking with both of you as well.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys. Bye-bye.